Okay, so our first of many 2024 mock drafts here, March 6th, right after the combine, kind of the knee-jerk reaction based on reports we've been hearing. Um, Feels really difficult at this time of the year to do a mock draft pre-free agency. So I think we're going to save the next one for post-free agency. Um, but this one, I'm excited to get started. I think I've got the number one overall pick, right?
Yep, you got odds. I'll take evens.
Okay. Yeah, the first one, it's going to be Caleb Williams until it isn't anymore. Until it isn't in April, maybe. I think it is going to be in April. Um, the Bears, it hasn't happened yet. Assume that he's moving off Justin Fields, the Bears are moving off of Justin Fields. Caleb Williams is moving Justin Fields out. Um, it just makes too much sense. I'm a big proponent of resetting the quarterback clock. I think that if you can, and you're in another position where you have the number one overall pick 2 years in a row with a quarterback this good on the board, if Fields showed you what he needed to, or Fields would have showed you already, I think, what he needed to keep you from taking a quarterback. Um, I think you got to gauge what his price is in the trade market and just take Caleb at number one.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is, do you think you need a quarterback? Yes. Then you need a quarterback, even if you have to think about it. If
Yeah,
you have to go, is just enough? Then he's not. He's not. He's not.
yeah.
No, I disagree. I think Justin is enough, but if they, as an organization, are going, hey, do we have a quarterback? Then you draft a quarterback because you have no confidence in your guy, and it's not worth ruining his career trying to force a square into a circle. It's just not worth it. So yeah, I 100% agree with that.
I think
So
right now
that
too the common way that GMs are thinking about the quarterback position, and I think the way the league is moving, and Patrick Mahomes hasn't helped. Where it's like if you don't have the guy on the big contract like Mahomes, Burrow, Herbert, and you don't have a guy who's promising on a rookie contract, what are you doing? I
yeah,
think that's the way the quarterback position is kind of being thought of, where the Daniel Joneses and the Derek Carrs and the maybe now the Justin Fields. It's like, are we going to win a Super Bowl with this guy? I don't know that we necessarily can. So we might as well just draft another one, and hopefully we can win one with that guy. And I think that is the way things are moving, and it's being put on full display here with the Caleb pick. And I think it's going to be put on display with Sam Howell out of town here with your number two pick.
yeah, and I think that does do a good leeway into this. So I am a little bit against the grain on Commanders. I've listened to some guys and I've watched some tape. I love both Drake May and Jaden Daniels. I see a lot of Josh Allen and Drake May, and I see a lot of Lamar in Jaden when you do those superstar comparisons, because that's what everyone wants to do is, oh, these are the superstars, let's compare them to the superstars. I mean, Jaden just has that straight line speed that if he wants to go, he can go. But the thing I love about Jaden is when you watch him, he is comfortable in the pocket. He can
Mm-hmm.
run, and he's comfortable in the pocket. With Drake May, I don't think you have that. I don't know that him. I really don't think Caleb Williams has that comfort in the pocket either. So I think for me, if I'm picking two overall, I need a quarterback. I think I'm going, and I am going to take the stretch. I'm going to take the reach, and I'm going with Jaden Daniels for sure. Um, I think in the end, I think he's a possibility for the one overall.
Yeah, I think the narrative around Jaden right now is kind of strange. People are either putting him like you're doing it too over Drake May, and there are some people who are saying JJ McCarthy might push him for QB3 in the class. I think
Yeah,
it happens every year. Um, Jaden connections kind of to Cliff Kingsbury in terms of the style of play. Kingsbury drafted Kyler while he was in Arizona. Jaden kind of the same type quarterback, and I don't think Kingsbury is in a position to make any draft day decisions
yeah,
on draft day for Washington, but certainly similarities there, and that's what people are starting to connect. Um, I still I think I'm going to go Drake May at three, and I think that the Patriots are a spot because the roster isn't good to trade down from three,
hmm
and I think that if May goes two, that is the way they go. But I think in this scenario, if Daniels goes two, I think the Patriots are happy taking Drake May at 3. While Daniels can be more of like the explosive playmaker, we saw it all last year. He put up the best numbers in college. Um, I think May would be more so what the Patriots are looking for, and I think that the fit makes sense, and they could certainly stick and pick May at 3.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I think Drake May is very much a Patriot quarterback. He's got that size to take the hits, the poise for the field general type quarterback. And then I think he's also just that new age quarterback where he can take off and run.
Yeah,
And he's got decent accuracy. He's got great throw power. I think he's more of a Patriots quarterback than anything. So I agree with you. If it's Jaden that falls to 3, or if it whatever it goes, Caleb Williams, Drake May, I do think the Patriots are probably a candidate to trade out.
mm-hmm.
But I do still love them taking Jaden Daniels either way. I think
Sure.
I think Jaden Daniels just has that potential. But so that leaves me at 4 with the probably some would argue the second easiest pick of the draft, but I would argue the easiest pick of the draft with Marvin Harrison.
Yeah,
They're obviously sticking with Kyler Murray. They've already made that post on social media. They're with him. He's their franchise. I agree with it. I think he gets a lot of slack, but I mean he has produced really well. And coming off that first year, now he's second year after injury. I think we're gonna have a full Kyler Murray, and you give him the best wide receiver prospect possibly since forever. I mean, you can't go wrong with that selection.
no, I think it makes a lot of sense. I've seen all the edits of Marvin Harrison in Arizona uniform already.
Oh
It
yeah.
looks like he fits in it. And the uniform check is a valid thing. Just like the name check and the drip check. He looks good in the Cardinals uniform. Aura check. But yeah, Harrison at 4. Um, I think it's pretty easy. I think really, depending on the way these QBs go, 1, 2, 3, I think the draft starts here at 5. Um,
Yeah.
I think that this all we're not doing trades in this first one, obviously, because we have no idea what these teams even look like post free agency. Um, so I think this is a trade down spot for the Chargers, another team that's trying to just accumulate as much talent as they can, and especially if one of those top 3 quarterbacks gets here, I could see a team coming up to this spot and making a move to pick one at 5. Um, but for the sake of just keeping it the same. I'm going to take Joe Alt here. I'm going to get uh, Justin Herbert, that blindside protector. They've got, I'm blanking on his name now, Rayshawn,
Rashawn
right? The
Slater.
right tackle? Yeah.
Yep, Slater.
Yeah, Rashawn Slater. Alt and Slater, 2 bookend tackles. Um, that's something along the offensive line that the Chargers have struggled with is protecting Herbert. And I think that Mike Williams may be gone, but with Keenan Allen still there, and you're hoping to see some type of improvement from Quentin Johnston. The receiver class is so deep, as is the tackle class, which is why I think this may be a trade down spot, like I said. But
Yeah.
Joe Alt is about as sure as it gets as a tackle prospect, and I think if you're a Charger fan, you're happy with having him in front of Justin Herbert for the next few years.
For sure, I agree with that. I think it's hitting with me now because I'm currently in a dynasty startup right now, and I think we're at that 5 is that selection where the first 6 quarterbacks go up the board, and you're at 7, and there's Jamar Chase, CeeDee Lamb, and Justin Jefferson, and you're going,
Yeah,
yeah, I could grab Justin Jefferson here, whoever your favorite is, or I could trade back 2 spots, get just as good of a quarterback or just as good of a wide receiver, and get some more on it. So I think
mm,
for me that's super relevant right now because obviously I'm a dynasty startup, but I think that's yeah, that's exactly where they're at. They can get the first one off the board, or they get a very similar skill set 4 or 5 picks later and gain some capital as well.
yeah,
And I love that because obviously Harbaugh's coming in and he's going to establish the run culture. And
hundred
what
percent.
better way to start that than getting an O-line upgrade? So that leaves me at Giants. I will say I like the idea of if Jaden falls, he falls to the Giants and they
Yeah,
give up on Danny Dimes. I'm not a Danny Dimes hater by any means. I like the kid. I think he does have potential. But I think they do need to reset the clock. They paid him way too much money, and they are kind of screwed in that situation.
yeah.
But
The feeling around the combine, according to Daniel Jeremiah, was a sense of, or maybe it was Eisen, one of the two, was a sense of buyer's remorse from the
Yep.
Giants, which makes a ton of sense. They've also been labeled as a possible trade up candidate if the
Yep.
Patriots want to trade down from 3, or maybe the Cardinals if Harrison goes to the Patriots. There's so many ways this draft can go with trades.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
but yeah, I think they're definitely in the market for a quarterback. So I'm interested to see what you do here with none of them available.
Yeah, I think without them, it's really just simply you've got to double down on Danny Dimes if you're not going to trade up and get someone, or you got to trade back. However, staying here, I think you got to double down on Danny Dimes. So to me, um, it's really just between Malik and Rome. For me, Rome is the shorter, faster, or Malik is the shorter, faster. Rome is your big bodied route runner, can catch the ball. They're both extremely talented. I currently have Rome above Malik, but I think New York Giants already has that route runner inside guy. I think you give them Rome or Malik Neighbors to run that outside, blow the top off some defenses, along with all the other skills he has. You give him a complete wide receiver, fitting the profile that they need. I think Malik Neighbors is the choice here for them.
Yeah, I'm with that, and I think the Bears are liking what they're seeing at 9. If
Sadly,
some
yeah.
of these highly touted offensive guys keep falling to pair with Caleb Williams, but that's in a little bit 2 picks away. Now we're with Tennessee, um, and I think that I think that people have written them in as a tackle. I've penciled them in as a tackle. It makes too much sense for them to do it. It's crazy talented tackle class. They've been awful there the past couple of years. And now if you believe in Will Levis and you want to support him, I think tackle is first. I think they're looking at Rome Odunze here and thinking about it. Brian Callahan, the new head coach there, has talked about how they want playmakers, and he was on the team that drafted Jamar Chase over Penei Sewell in 2021. So I think that it's a possibility that they take one of these top receivers. In this case, I'm going to take one of the tackles. I don't necessarily know who yet. I think for mix-up sake, I'm going to go J.C. Latham from Alabama, who has become a riser during this draft process.
Oh yeah.
Just an absolute
He's
mountain of
helped
a
a
human
lot.
being, a mover. People love him, and Alabama offensive linemen tend to work out. And this is not only just an Alabama offensive lineman, but a good player and a player
Yeah.
that can help you protect Will Levis in a deep receiver class. Again, I'm going to keep saying it for a lot of these receiver needy teams. You hope that one in the second or third round is there for you, and you just want to get one of these top offensive tackles.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it's legitimately, and everyone has been talking about it all this draft. It's the Jamar Chase Penei Sewell decision for a lot of these teams.
No, yeah,
Um, and I agree. Titans, I think Titans can shore it up with some receivers in free agency for pretty cheap. Obviously, with this draft going, or for later in the draft, I think it's harder. There's not a big tackle free agent class. This free agent class for offensive line is pretty rough. So I think shoring up that is probably the smart route to do. So that leaves me with Falcons. Obviously, I would love to grab Rome Odunze here to keep him away from the Bears,
sure.
not destroy his career. But I just don't see them doing that. They've got Drake London, and I get they need a receiver, but I don't think you go eighth overall with another receiver when you've already done that once. So I think for me, for them, they grab the best defensive player in the draft, and I'm pretty much always going to draft it to him.
Yep.
I don't know how Dallas Turner could fall past any further. He's my pick here.
Yeah, it's become one of the more popular picks that I've seen in people doing mock drafts. First defensive player off the board. I think he earned it at the combine. Um, just a freakish day. And, we talked about before the last great edge for Atlanta, double digit sack guy, was Vic Beasley in 2016. So um, they need edge. Dallas Turner now pairing up with Raheem Morris. It's the type of guy that Falcons fans should get excited about and should probably get familiar with because I think it's the pick. Also, assuming that their quarterback situation isn't figured out either, and they could be a team that trades up. But it sounds like Kirk Cousins is interested in terms of reports, so they'll be a much easier team to mock. after free agency. Obviously, Justin Fields from Atlanta as well. Um, but Dallas Turner, best defensive player in this class. I'm with you. And a
Yeah.
good fit in Atlanta. So here's
I
Chicago.
think Justin Fields, real quick, to the Atlanta Falcons would feed families. I love that
Yeah, yeah,
solution. I think they backed off it big time when Caleb Williams refuses medical, and then they found out Justin Fields' market isn't as big as they were hoping.
yeah.
They backed off it a little bit. Now Kirk Cousins is the hot name there, but man, would I love to see Justin Fields in a Falcons uniform.
Yeah, if his kind of gripe is the he wants to go off script too much and he, maybe holds the ball too long there and he moves around in the pocket. If you just want to surround him with a bunch of guys, it's like watching, I don't even know what to compare it to, just a bunch of guys run around in an offense.
Yeah.
Like, not a ton of, will be a ton of structure. And Zach Robinson um, draws a lot of comparisons to Bobby Slowick in my head, both former PFF guys, young play callers, and Zach Robinson coming from the Sean McVay system will obviously have some stuff in place that should be able to call an offense. I think he can fit it around Justin Fields, and Fields and Bijan immediately as a rushing threat is up there with Anthony Richardson and Jonathan Taylor and
Yeah.
some of the top QB running back duos in the league in terms of putting pressure on defenses. I think it'd be a fun fit, and I think if they could end up with Fields and Dallas Turner come draft night, they'll be pretty pumped about it.
Yeah, I
But
don't see
Fields'
how you
former
couldn't.
team, the Bears, so people, it's going to be Rome Odunze. But people talk about Odunze certainly can be a wide receiver one, but you can't hate the idea of him not having to be being the wide receiver two to DJ Moore in a system that can kind of layer both. Have DJ Moore over the top, have Odunze underneath. You can flip him if you want to. Um, Caleb Williams now in this draft at the helm. That's the most support in the world you could possibly give a young quarterback with DJ Moore, Odunze, Cole Kmet, couple of good running backs. It would be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I don't. I think that's pretty nice. Um, I really like Romo Dunze, like I've said, and I do love him there in Chicago. Obviously, that gives, like you're saying, Caleb a ton of support. There's literally zero excuse at that point for Caleb not to perform. I think
Yeah.
doing that, the Bears solidify, hey, we've given him everything we need. There's not going to be an argument like with Justin Fields. Oh, he needs more weapons. No, like we've given him weapons, two crazy good weapons, a good tight end, a decent O line. Like, let's see him and let's make sure
Yeah.
he's worth it. So I like that. I like being able to see straight up if Caleb Williams is going to be worth what you gave up for him. For the Jets, I think this is a pretty chalk pick. I think, I know we have talked about it. I think Brock Bowers is there. I think that's a huge need for them. They just let go CJ Uzomah. And I think Olu Fashanu. I was going to try and
Olu,
expect
yeah.
him to say his full first name, but
It's
we're going
Olu.
to stick with Olu. I think those are the two you're picking between. And I think chalk pick here is Olu. I think they need to protect Rodgers. I think they need to get that going. I don't see how you cannot. But it is the Jets. So I think the Jets are focused on winning, and I think they see red, and I think they see Brock Bowers drop to 10, and they pick him up. And I think that
Yeah.
they add to their offense that way. I think Brock can still block for him and help him out a little bit. But I don't think they're going to make the smart move. I think they're going to make the greedy move and try and make it work without Olu.
Yeah, I love the fit with Bowers. I think that again, Garrett Wilson and Brock Bowers and Brees Hall and Aaron Rodgers. I mean, that's a projects to be a pretty good offense. Again, who's blocking? It's a deep tackle class, so you can figure some stuff out. You really can. The depth of this class at premier positions gives you so many options. And I think Bowers is an option that the Jets should consider. If they're not, I'm sure they are, or else they're not very good at their jobs. But yeah, I like the fit there. I think that's a dynamic offense. The Vikings are interesting. We're not assuming anything, so we're not assuming that Kirk is gone. Um, but I think this could be a J.J. McCarthy spot. I think this could be an edge spot, a corner. They've got needs in a lot of different places.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to go Terrion Arnold for the Vikings. Um, Corner is certainly a position of need, and I can only imagine what Terrion Arnold looks like in a Brian Flores defensive scheme. I'm sure it's um, your favorite saying. I'm sure it would feed families.
Absolutely.
He would an aggressive corner, a corner that likes contact. Um, I think that Arnold fits perfectly in Minnesota.
Yeah, I agree. I think Arnold's the 1A to Quignon's 1B in this class. I think it's a pretty good class overall. But I think the Vikings, I think they love their young corners. They develop their young corners. Brian Flores has a phenomenal system for young players. And I think that's a killer pick. I think he does really well there. So that leaves me with Broncos. Another fun pick. Also need quarterback. They just released their $50 million man taking $90 million in dead cap on him.
Yeah.
Um, Absolutely tanking that franchise for the immediate future in order to build the late future. They had to do it. I think in order to do that, they need to thrive on a rookie quarterback with that rookie contract. And I think Sean Payton loves himself some J.J. McCarthy, loves himself a national champion. I think he goes there.
So apparently the feeling it released today, I saw something that if you want to move up for a quarterback in this draft, you have to get past the Vikings. So
That
maybe
sounds about right.
preparing for Kirk Cousins to be gone, but I think that the Broncos will also be well in play for a quarterback. They have to be. Um, I don't think they're going to be a team that signs a free agent or trades for a Justin Fields. I think they will want their own. And McCarthy, we've talked about it, runs the scheme that he's asked to run. That was Sean Payton's biggest gripe with Russell Wilson, is that Russ tried to cook a little too much.
Yep.
The reins were completely off, and Sean Payton wanted them to be as tight as possible. McCarthy was just in an offense that was system based, um, and I think it makes a ton of sense. It's one of my favorite fits in this draft, actually, is McCarthy to Denver. And it's looking like he will be a top 12 pick, at least as of right now. So I think it makes
Yeah,
perfect sense.
I think if you spend a first to get a coach, you have to be able to give that coach the weapons they want.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
So now the Raiders. This is another popular corner spot, and I think Quinyon Mitchell played himself into a high draft pick. Um,
Yeah.
I'm going to take Quinyon here. I think you put him opposite of Nate Hobbs, and you've got two really good outside corners. Um, I like O line in this for this pick. I like a guy like Byron Murphy on the interior defensive line next to Max Crosby. Um, but I'm going to take Quinyon. And I think these DBs go high. They're extremely talented, and I think the Raiders are a spot that could take one.
Yeah, I mean, I think I agree with you. I think these corners are too good. This 1A, 1B of this class is, I mean, it's another Derek Stingley, Sauce Gardner type year. These two are going to go on to be pretty good from what it looks like, top corners in the league. And I think if you miss out, you're really going to be kicking yourself. So I definitely think even sliding to 13 is crazy, but it's understandable with the talent in this draft. It's just to
Yeah, yeah.
get a cornerback of that caliber at 13. I mean, the Raiders, that's a win. So now we've got the Saints. They're a fun team. I think one of their biggest needs is the defensive line. Um, but I gotta say, you know my disdain for Derek Carr. I am not a Derek Carr fan. I think if the run's gonna happen, this is why they say before Minnesota, because I think Minnesota has a chance of taking one. I think Denver definitely takes one. I think Raiders have a chance of taking one, and I think Saints have a chance of taking one. So if they all decide to try and take that run, you lose out on every quarterback that's worth even close to a second round draft capital. So I think it would be fun to put someone here. I really think that's what they want to do. But right now, there's just not enough information. I think at this point,
Yeah.
we got to go with what we got. I think they're going to sit with Derek Carr, eat that contract for a little bit, and I think they're going to take the best D line available right now, and they're going to take Byron Murphy, a monster in that midfield. He's going to eat up O lines for them, aside Brian Bresee. That'll be, or not Brian Bresee. Who they draft
It's
last year?
Brian Brzee.
Is it Brian Bresee? Yeah, so
Mm.
aside Brian Brescia, I think that'll really make some movement there on their D line, and I think it'll help them out for the future. And hopefully Derek Carr can patch something together to make it respectable.
Yeah, I think the Saints are definitely an interesting quarterback team. Derek Carr's making a shit ton of money, so
Yeah.
maybe they just roll back another. I don't know how much money in the future he's due, but obviously, definitely this year he's due some money. And I think that Byron Murphy's a great fit. Cam Jordan was on the sideline at the combine watching Byron Murphy, and he explicitly said that he wants him next to Brian Brzee in the middle during the ring drill. So Murphy makes a ton of sense. This is another guy who probably shouldn't fall this far, but he is here, and yeah, I think it's a great fit. So now I've got my Colts, and we just did the off season hope episode. So I'm gonna
Yep.
navigate as if our hopes came true, um, and I'm gonna get some support for Anthony Richardson. I'm going to take Brian Thomas Jr. at LSU. I have been completely Brian Thomas Jr. pilled. I think in my mind it will be a pass catcher, whether it's and based on what I've seen from guys in the Colt circles that I really trust and appreciate what they do. They all seem to say it's pass catcher. Um, Anthony Richardson, you've got Pittman back, you've got Josh Downs, who you like a lot. Alec Pierce going to year three is a little bit of a question mark, and I think a guy like Brian Thomas Jr. or an Adonai Mitchell
Oof.
are taken higher in different classes. There's no guarantee that a player of Thomas Jr. or Mitchell's caliber is even in this draft range in other classes. So um, take one while you can. Get a good number two receiver. And again, hopefully they address the secondary and stuff in free agency, and that's how I'm operating with that pick.
Yeah, I mean, I don't hate it. I think that's definitely what's needed. Um, here's I'm gonna go a little, or should I stay real? I'll stay realistic. I was gonna go a little fantasy here, um, and put that dream matchup with Penix here, but I think this is way too
Mm,
far of a reach for him.
yeah,
It would be beautiful, poetic to see him going there. Um, I think O line and edge. It looks like I think Olu has fallen far too far,
yeah. Olu has gone a long way
and I
here.
and I also think Jared Verse has too.
Yep.
Um, Other guys, Fuaga. I mean, that's a pretty far. Latu pretty far, but understandable. I think Olu is here. I think he's just. I think if the Jets don't take him, he'll go even higher. But I think this is a solid landing spot for him. I think the Seahawks are celebrating pretty hard about that pick, getting a pretty great offensive tackle to support their future franchise, whether that's Geno Smith long term or whether they end up getting Penix in the second or third and trying it out
Yeah.
with him. But I think that's a huge stalwart for that O line.
Yeah, this is not a team that needs receiver. This is, with Smith and Jigba and Lockett and DK Metcalf, it's about as good of a trio as anybody has in the NFL. Certainly a team that needs offensive line. They've got Charles Cross and Abraham Lucas. Both have had some injury issues. I think Fashanu makes a ton of sense. Um, Maybe they take a Fuaga or a Fatanu and kick them in. I've mocked Jackson Powers Johnson to them, but I agree with you that Olu fell too far in this draft, and um, I think it makes a ton of sense. And
Yeah,
the
I definitely think
Jags,
fit wise, Fuaga might fit better, but I think just
mm,
pure talent, Olu has the talent over Fuaga, and I think they'll make it work with that. They'll be happy at
yeah,
16 to, hey, we got to readjust a little bit, put some people outside their comfort zone a slight bit, but for the talent that we're getting, it's worth it.
yeah, no, I can see it. I agree. And now we're to the Jaguars, who Josh Allen just got franchise tagged. They took Trayvon Walker at one a couple of years ago, and he seemed to come on it. People were waiting for him to really take that big step, and he seemed to come on at the end of last year as somebody who was crushing the pocket. So on the edge, I think Jared Verse makes it another pick. I don't think he gets here. Um,
Woo! Love to hear that.
Corner is interesting. Pull up the rest of the corner. We've only taken
Yeah, I
two,
got you.
right?
Yeah,
We've got
only two. There's
DeJean
still a
and
long list here.
yeah, we got DeJean and Wiggins and McKinstry. Okay. Uh, Man, doesn't Nate Wiggins kind of feel like a Jaguar?
He does.
I think he does. I think I'm gonna take him here. long, fast. We know that crazy light, which could be a reason that he drops. But I mean, a 4.29 40 at 6'1", I think is what he measured in at, something like that. They need corner. They just got rid of Darius Williams and lost some secondary with Rayshawn Jenkins.
Yep.
I think that Tyson Campbell and Nate Wiggins on the outside is a good fit. And teams, you see them often draft for divisional needs, and the other teams in their division have good. You can't be a team in the AFC South and not have good corners.
Yeah.
So I think Nate Wiggins makes a ton of sense for Jacksonville.
Yeah, 100% agree. I think the biggest indicator for them going corner is the fact that they did just drop those two DBs. I mean, I don't know how much bigger of a red flag we need to see to say, hey, they're going to grab a corner. So I think that's a very, very solid selection there. And I think we're at the Bengals. We said this earlier last time. I think they're perennially just trying to find O linemen.
Yeah.
I do love Johnny Newton sliding here. Get them a D line right in there. They're losing DJ Reader, it looks like, in free agency, so they're going to need someone to replace that. But man, after the injuries that just happened to Joe Burrow, after the year before, the sack worries, I don't know how you don't just take Fuaga here. I mean, he is a versatile lineman. You can pop him outside. You can pop him inside to guard. He's pretty flexible on both sides. He's not the greatest on the opposite side, but he is still very functional there. I think this decision really just comes down to which tackle do they like the most, or which lineman do they like the most, and I think Fuaga's got the most talent out of everyone here. I think that's a killer selection. Protect their franchise quarterback. They don't really need much elsewhere. I mean, they need some defense, but really just secure that Joe Burrow health. And I'll say that this is the other spot I saw Nate Wiggins going to. If you didn't have Nate Wiggins going to the Jaguars, these are the two spots I see him. He feels like a Jaguar or a Ram.
Yeah, I think Ram makes a ton of sense too. And they've got one corner walking, who I'm blanking on the name. He was a Steeler. Ended up on the Rams, but he's hitting free agency. Completely blanking on his name now. But I think this is Jared Verse in this mock draft.
Dang.
Again, it's fallen way too far. This is a popular spot for Leatu Latu as well. We've talked about how the Rams draft, and they pretty much just draft the best football players. They don't really care about the athletic testing or the injury history. But in this scenario, Versus has fallen way too far.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, I was obviously, as a Texan, you want to see him fall to the Texans, but there's no way he's going to. He just tested great. He has good tape. I don't know how he can go anywhere else. So now we're looking Steelers. I think this is another guy I feel like he feels like a Steeler. Cooper DeJean. Man, I feel like if there's a person in this draft that feels more like a Steeler, I don't know who it is. DeJean's versatility. Tomlin will have him working up a sweat. He'll have him on people. He'll switch him to safety if he needs him. Tomlin's that type of person. He doesn't care. People aren't really positioned. They're more positionless. Do what you're good at. So I love that fit there in Pittsburgh for him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I am for that. I think it makes a ton of sense. They've struggled a little bit at corner, but Joey Porter Jr. seems to be trending in the right direction. And I think that DeJean next to him, that's a pretty solid young corner duo that I think Pittsburgh would be happy with. Here, this one's pretty easy. It's Jackson Powers Johnson for me. Their center, who I'm also Connor Williams, hitting free agency. They are strapped for cash, so I don't know if he'll be back. Powers Johnson's about as clean as it gets as a center prospect. If you are moving forward with Tua, you got to protect him. Powers Johnson will do that. He's one of the most surefire prospects in this class, in my opinion. I really don't see where he fails at the NFL level.
No, I think the only reason he's going at 21 is just the positional value. Honestly,
Yeah.
I think he's pretty sure as a prospect. I would be as sure as him as hitting as a prospect as I would Quinyon Mitchell or a Terrion Arnold type player. I think he's got that surefire in him. And this is one of my favorite picks. Obviously, with the rumor mill, you hear everything. You hear everyone says, but I really love the Tyler Guyton fix here. Um, I think they're going to need wide receiver when you look down the pipe, but they're losing Jason Kelsey. You want to get that Lane Johnson fix because he's not got long left. I think Lane Johnson's already mentoring this kid. He's already got recommendations for this kid. I don't know how, as a franchise, you can hear your two best offensive linemen say, "Hey, go with Tyler Guyton. He's special," and not go with him. So I'm going to go ahead and have
Sure.
him go there.
Yeah, and we know the Eagles love to build up the offensive line. They like to draft
Oh yeah.
offensive line highly, both the defensive line and the offensive line. They are certainly a team that wins through the trenches. Guyton's a freak. He's a mountain.
Yep.
Would be big for them. I agree. It's a good pick. And here we are with your Texans. When we go even and odd, we just end up with both of each other's teams,
It's kind of
which doesn't
fun.
make
I
it
like
as
that.
fun. Yeah, it does make it. I'm with it. And I'm gonna make your. We did the offseason episode. You had Leatu Latu here. I'll make that come true. Um,
Yes.
in my opinion, the most sound edge rusher in this class, in terms of his hand fighting and his bag. Um, he is the most talented. With him, is certainly injury concerns. His neck is fused, um, which that Peyton Manning type of surgery, which could certainly turn people away. But they talked about it at the combine. A couple of months after his surgery, he was playing rugby at Washington and was being recruited by team, the professional rugby team in Washington, in Seattle, to play for them, but decided he wanted to keep playing football. Um, and now he's here as a first round pick in the NFL. And I think he fits with Houston, a need for edge rusher, especially if Gernard does walk. Um, I think, I mean, you can tell me if you wouldn't be happy with that. I'm sure you would be.
I would love it. To be quite honest, I'm a very gambler type person. I get it. You don't want to gamble with your first round picks. Cool. I get it. But at the same point, when the gamble is a true top 10 player in this draft, he's just falling to 23 or 24 because of health concerns. And these health concerns are seem comical. I mean, I get it. He's got a fused neck, but at the same time, like you mentioned, he was playing rugby. Like he's been playing football again. He's gotten all clear. I think the biggest thing here is: are we going to get a for sure medical clearance?
Mm.
What does that medical look like? I think once I see that, I'll feel more confident. If it's a mediocre medical report, I won't feel great. If it's a great medical report, I don't think he falls to us, unfortunately. But I think I am ecstatic with that pick. I think he's a top. I mean, in this draft class, probably more like a top 15 guy in this draft
Mm.
class, but still falling an extra 8 spots for health concerns that don't really seem like too big of concerns. I'm ecstatic about it. So now we got the Cowboys. They're losing Tony Pollard. They're losing some line. They need to replace a lot. They've got some serious things going on that team, and they've got some serious money that's about to be tied up in Dak Prescott because he's got all the leverage. Um, I don't hate any of these guys going to him. I really think they're a team that focuses. It's very similar to the Eagles, and I think that's the division trend you see. They're going to build in the trenches. I could see them grabbing Jerzon Newton, Johnny Newton.
Hmm.
I think he's fallen pretty far. I think this is right around the range I would take him. But I also could see them taking Troy Fauno
Yeah.
or Amarius Mims, to be quite honest. I think
Hmm.
they've got to replace those tackles soon. You can't keep paying them what they pay them at that age, and they're going to want to keep getting paid. And I think after you pay Dak, you're going to run out of money. So I think they're going to go with Troy out of Washington. I mean, he was a tackle on the best O line in college football this year. I don't know how that can go wrong. I think that's a solid pick for them.
Yeah, Tyron Smith pretty much confirmed to be walking in free agency. They won't re-sign him, so tackle becomes a huge need. That blind side of Dak Prescott. Uh, I agree that Amarius Mims could be available here. I don't know that Fatanu gets this far, um, but again, in this class, every mock draft we're going to do, it's going to be once we hit this range, it's going to be like, oh, how is this guy still here? Um,
Exactly. Yeah.
because it's just so talented. So in this scenario, Fatanu gets there. A nasty. People talk about kicking him into guard. I don't think he needs to kick into guard. Had the right arm length at the combine. That's what people were kind of worried about. Um, can get out in space as a run blocker and just destroy people. Um, and as a pass blocker, he's sound as well. I think it makes a ton of sense. Um, Now the Packers, a young team that just doesn't. You just wherever they are young at a position, you just expect them to be fine at because they just develop.
Yep.
Um, hmm, this is a difficult one because I think they're fine on the offensive line. I think that honestly, maybe the most intriguing fit here is Johnny Newton.
Yep.
Um, Rashawn Gary there, Lucas Van Ness, you're developing. Um, I think you put Johnny Newton on that team and let him plug up the middle and come off on pass rush downs, run stuff downs. He's really kind of a do it all defensive tackle who gets forgotten a little bit in such a talented draft class. So I'll go Newton here at 25 to the Packers.
Yeah, I agree with that pick. I think they're needing that Kenny Clark successor, and I think they're getting it in Johnny Newton. I know coming into all this right before combine stuff like that, Johnny Newton was D tackle one, and then people saw truly how good Byron Murphy is,
Mm-hmm.
and so he's taken a tumble. I don't know that he's going to keep that tumble, but like we keep saying, you can't keep saying that, oh, none of these guys are going to drop this far. Someone's got to drop this far.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think a lot of these teams are getting a steal. This is a phenomenal draft to have a second pick in. So now we're at Bucks. They're needing some stuff. These teams down here at the end surprisingly needing a little bit more. Man, I've seen mocked, like I told you before, Rakestraw here. I
Mm-hmm.
think you could still argue like a Kool-Aid McKinstry too. They need some O-line help, and man, Mims feels like a good fit here. But he would have to slide in, and I don't know how much I like him sliding in. I do like Barton, though.
Mm-hmm.
I love Grant Barton. He's a guard. He would fit in that line perfectly. Wouldn't have to push Wirfs or anything inside, or him inside. He's already inside. I think Grant Barton might be the pick here pretty comfortably. Perfect fit for them. Helps that O line, and hopefully they can use their money to re-sign Baker and get them their quarterback wide receiver duo and keep them safe.
Yeah, I think that's a perfect fit. It does project to be a center or a guard, certainly an interior offensive lineman, more so than a tackle. Lewis Riddick just tweeted the other day about Graham Barton. Said he absolutely loved him, and I do take what Lewis Riddick has to say
Oh
as
yeah.
you know, pretty informed and a guy who's been around it for a long time. So if he's in on Graham Barton, I guess I am too. Um, Not necessarily that I was ever out on him, but I think he makes a ton of sense there. Now, I'm gonna have a little bit of fun with this Cardinals pick. Um, you got Marvin Harrison at the start of this draft. Marquise Brown is probably walking in free agency, although he is best friends with Kyler, so maybe he stays around. You've got Rondale Moore in the slot. Marvin Harrison Jr. and Adonai Mitchell on the outside makes a ton of sense to me. I think that
Ooh,
you
I love it.
completely load up on offense. You go wide receiver one and wide receiver two in the first round, and Kyler Murray's got those two, and Trey McBride on an offense is nasty. That puts about the most pressure you can possibly put on a defense.
Yeah, I agree with that. Is that your pick then for sure?
Yeah, it's gonna be Adonai
Oh, I
Mitchell.
love it. I love that. I hadn't even thought about it. That combo. Oh my gosh. Um, I don't even know that Murray would have to create at that level. You've got
No, I don't think
three
he would.
three weapons. That's insane. So then we hit Bills. And Adonai Mitchell was my ringer for the Bills.
Yeah,
So that makes things a little more interesting. You still got Diggs there. Who knows how long that'll be there? Tons of rumors flying. It can't be all just smoke. Um, they definitely need another wide receiver. They're gonna let Gabe Davis walk. I think they like Khalil Shakir though a little bit more,
they
at
do.
least enough to keep them from going for it at first over in the first round. I think they actually might be interested in after they've let go Jordan Poyer shoring up that DB situation. Uh, I really think Amarius Mims has fallen too far, but I don't.
Yeah.
I'm not familiar enough with their line. Are they really needing
it's
line?
Deion Dawkins at left tackle, who's been a solid player. Right tackle, I can't think of. I'll look real quick off the top of my head. I think it's let's see. Trying to pull his name. Yeah, Spencer Brown, who has been a solid player as well over there. So,
Yeah,
um,
so I don't see Amarius Mims fitting in. Then, I mean, I guess you would go. Man, this is a rough one.
This one is tough. I don't envy this pick at all. I think certainly Adonai Mitchell would have been the pick.
That's what, yeah. Like I think Adonai
Yeah.
Mitchell is the perfect pick here, but yeah, if he's gone off the board, that hurts him. You know what? I'll go DB. I think they're needing some help DB. I think they've got their slot guy. So I think Kool Aid McKinstry could be a valuable pick here. And man, I just think if they're not going to take Amarius, I think that's their next best. I think they can get a wide receiver of similar value in these guys in the next round.
Yep. That makes plenty of sense. That's two picks in a row now that we've taken each other's picks because I was going Kool Aid all the way to Detroit.
Now they need it. They need it.
They do. They do need corner. I think the best one left is TJ Tampa, right? And I don't
Yeah,
know.
I mean, I think you got Sainer still, who's a solid.
Yeah, Sanders still
just a
projects
slot.
certainly more as a slot. Rakestraw's there. You know what?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, let's go Ennis Rakestraw. I spaced on him for a second. There was another name there at the bottom that was interesting of the corners. Renardo Green from Florida State, who had a good combine. Also locked up Malik Neighbors when they played, and that's what kind of put him on everybody's radar. So I think Renardo Green could be a late riser in the process. Kamari Lassiter,
sure.
a big long corner from Georgia. But Ennis Rakestraw is getting first round hype, I think, deservedly, and I think he makes sense in Detroit. So no Kool-Aid on the board. I'll just go Rakestraw.
Yeah, I think TJ and Kamari are those two corners that you're looking at with their physicality, their size, and you're going, man, it would be fun to have them. Whether they have the skills or not, it'd be fun to have them with their athleticism and their size. So that leaves me with the Ravens. Ravens need a wide receiver bad. They've struck out a couple times with them. They wasted a ton of money on OBJ last year. They finally found someone in Zay Flowers. I would want Lad McConkey here, but I feel like him and Zay were too similar of wide receivers. So I think my favorite guy, honestly, to mock them, especially after they just franchised had Matt Buike, so they don't need a D-line guy. I think Troy Franklin. Add some speed, blow the top off. I do like Keon Coleman there. Just not because I like him there, but because that's the type of wide receiver they draft. So I feel like it could end up being him. I feel like Troy is the better fit to be opposite of Zay Flowers on that offense, though.
Yeah, and I think Lad McConkey is possibly the best receiver left on the board, but in kind of that Zay Flowers mold where he's a short route winner. At 4.39 speed could also win deep. But I like Troy Franklin there just as a bigger target. Kind of OBJ size, actually. So kind of interesting that they just plug and play Franklin. And I think this is his range, kind of the late first round if somebody wants to take a shot on him or in starting to get into the second round. And the Niners now are a team that they don't have to draft for any need. And in this situation, I'm letting Trent Williams coach Amarius Mims and insert him next year, 2 years from now, whenever it is. It's just the best offensive tackle in the league, coaching a guy who's thought of maybe as more of a project compared to the rest of these tackles. But, I mean, big body, long arms, can move, sounds pretty reminiscent of Trent Williams. So sharpening his game behind him for a year or two, I think would make a ton of sense for San Francisco.
Yeah, I mean, I love that. If the 49ers have him fall in their laps, it's just unfair.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
You're right. He's not completely ready to start. He's got a lot to build. He's got some skills to learn. But I think you give him a mentor of Trent Williams, that just makes it insane. That dude has the freaking sky as his ceiling.
Yeah, I've seen the same type of thought process being used for Tyler Guyton too, who actually an Oklahoma tackle, just like Trent Williams was. So if either of these guys get down to San Francisco, I think a tackle is maybe more in play than people think for them at 31. Again, because they just don't have many needs at all.
Yeah, when you don't have the needs, you can draft best available, and that is so nice for a franchise. Props to Kyle Shanahan and their GM for just
they kill it.
Creating a situation like that.
John
now,
Lynch and
this Chiefs selection, I haven't wavered on. I knew immediately once I got Evans who I was taking, and I was just purely hoping that you weren't going to take him. I think this is the smash accept of the year. They just got rid of this guy and you saw how good he was. If he can live up to be even a portion of what Tyreek Hill is, I think they three-peat. Xavier Worthy here, I love. I think that is exactly what they want. They need a wide receiver. They have to take a wide receiver. I don't think there's any other route. Rashi Rice came out. That's great and all, but you have no two. You just let go of MVS or Nicole Hardman, one of the two.
Yeah.
And you're probably going to let go of the other one, and they're really not that productive anyway. You need a deep threat. Those drop balls deep hurt them. I think Xavier Worthy can blow the top off those defenses. He's got great tracking deep. He is that Tyreek Hill deep ball. He may not have the short, quick speed or quick route running that Tyreek Hill had,
Yeah.
but he's got that deep route running that he had, and I think it's a perfect fit. Fill that hole that you got rid of for not having to pay him, and it's just, I think that gets them the three-peat if he falls to them.
I also think people are maybe a little bit confused on what Xavier Worthy is. He measured in at 6'1", right, at the combine?
Mm-hmm.
So he's certainly a taller receiver, or at
Yeah,
least an average size receiver.
he's not Tank
Uh,
Dell or anything.
no, and maybe that's how people think of him without, doing all the work. But Worthy is also a guy who can break tackles in the open field. Um, Certainly a talented receiver in a class full of talented receivers,
Yep.
and could have run his way into the first round. I think Kansas City is a great fit. And if I'm picking 33 for the Panthers, I'm going to do this every time, as long as he doesn't get into the first round. It's Lad McConkey from
Uh-huh.
Georgia. His game is fantastic. He's a guy where it's like you watch him and you just think, how is this player not going to be good in the NFL? It's just too many roads to being good and so little roads to not being good. He's a tremendous route runner, 4.39 speed. Um, will get dirty in the run game. I think he's a perfect fit in Carolina. Just a guy that can get open.
Oh yeah.
If you're not going to protect Bryce Young, you might as well get him somebody who can he can throw the ball to. So for Carolina at 33, a class full of receivers. It sucks that you missed out on your first round pick, but you're very fortunate that this is what the board looks like. Um,
Yeah, it's definitely it's one of those drafts that it sucks not to have a first, but it's also really nice. It's like the perfect draft you don't want a first in because
yeah,
even at second, you're still getting first round talent. And
and
yeah,
who knows?
and
Maybe
echoing what you're saying about where the dude is a baller. He's going to snatch ankles. He's not just straight line speed, kind of like Jaden
yeah.
Daniels has speed, but it's straight line speed. Xavier Worthy has speed, change of direction, agility. He has it all. He is a runner and he's quick and fast. And man, is he just going to shift people off of him in his breaking routes?
Yeah, and who knows who else could be there for Carolina at 33? Maybe Adonai Mitchell isn't taken in the back half of the first round, or uh, there's Troy Franklin is maybe there for Carolina, doesn't make it in the first round. They have so many options. It really is just a fun draft, um,
Yeah,
and for this possibly my favorite time of the NFL season is draft season, and when a class is this good, it just makes it more fun.
oh
So
yeah.
we will be doing plenty more of these. The next one will come after free agency, and maybe we incorporate some trades in there just to, if a team doesn't get what they need in free agency, they seem more desperate to need a position. We can better mock some trades. But for now, this one signed, sealed, and delivered, and we'll be ready for the next one.
Absolutely. I'll see you next time.